One of the first best way you can look at .NET is more like you are looking at Node, just like as if you are downloading Node. So it's more like a runtime like Node. It's far different from Node, but that's a very simple explanation to how you can get it. So C# is so it is called it is C#, but actually it is C hash, but actually pronounced C#. So we call it an object-oriented programming language. It was created by Microsoft. We looked at it. It was created by Microsoft. Did I spell this language very well? Microsoft. Yeah, it was created by Microsoft, and it is used just like JavaScript. It is a language that is used in many things. You can use it for building of web apps. You can use it for building desktop. You can even use it for building games. So something like that. So C# is inside a .NET ecosystem, more like we have several npm packages. So that's the way C# is also. Then for you to use C# locally on your device, you have to download .NET. I generally advise you guys to use no, I don't download. Please don't download. I've downloaded it already. So I advise you guys to download .NET version 8, which is the long-term support. But me personally, I wanted to play with .9, so I have .9 installed on my system. But they should function almost similarly. There are some differences, but basically they should function almost the same thing. So first step is, once you have your .NET installed, just do .NET dash dash info. Oh, sorry, I spelled the wrong thing. Let me see if I can increase the font of this. I will increase the size. So to just check it, just do .net dash dash info. It will show you. It will let you know the version of many things on your .net. So currently I'm using .net version 9.0.23. I think 9.0.4 has been released, but I'm using 0.9.0.2. So basically almost the same thing. Then just many things that are there, the architecture I'm using, the version I'm using, things like that. So basically that's what you can use to check, just like as if you do node version, that's where you do it. Then to create a new application in .net, we can just do .net new. It will show us the different kind of application we can create. Once we do .net new, I'm coming. Oh, dot what am I pressing? .net new. Good. We can do .net new Blazor. It creates a new Blazor web app. Look at Blazor more like React on C#. So look at it more like that. Then we have a class library. We have a console application. We have a Windows app. Then we have a Windows application. So we're going to be learning C# for about 4 weeks before we move to .NET. So C# is more like JavaScript, and .NET is more like a framework built on top C#, more like Express on top C#. So we're using .NET to build several server APIs, which will be deploying to Azure. Azure is Microsoft's cloud platform. But for now, let's just go into the basic of C#. So can you guys still hear me? Am I still loud and clear?
Yes, can
Good,
we
good,
can hear you.
good. So in the last class I created a small console application. So I said to create console application, first of all create the folder you want to create it in. So if I want to create something, like I can create something, do a mkdir new application. Once I now create my new application, I'll cd into my new application. Then I'll now do .net .net new console. So what it will do is it creates a new console application inside that my folder. It creates a new console C sharp application inside my folder. Then last week I told you guys, not last week, on Tuesday, I was saying that there are some extension that I would want you guys to install to make your work easier. First of all, install the C sharp dev kits. Once you install that, you can install C sharp. Then you can also install .net install too. We'll be looking at this .net install too much more later. Now, just like your JavaScript, we have our index.js, but rather in C sharp we have program.cs. So program.cs our C sharp is our entry point. So we can use here, we can just open it just like the way you open it on normal application. But instead, I want you guys, once you have installed the C sharp dev kit, it gives you access to something called Solution Explorer. So with Solution Explorer, there are just many things we can do with Solution Explorer. We can add dependencies, we can add NuGet packages. So look at NuGet packages more like let me see if I can show you what's a NuGet package. Look at NuGet package more like npm. You know, we have npm.com where we can install. Okay, this is Zostand, we have Express. So same way, once we look at NuGet rather, we can look at it more like okay, I think I installed MailKit, NuGet MailKit recently. So look at this one more like Node Mailer. For those of us that knows Express, and we know we use Node Mailer to send mailing in Express mainly. So look at this as MailKit as a C sharp node mailer extension. So we can look for several extension. One of the most popular extension we use is entity framework. Oh shit, sorry guys. So we have entity framework core, we just have many. We have relational, we have the design, we have SQL server. So we'll be mainly using this SQL server when we have to deal with local MSQL server. But most of all these things, you don't have to really worry about them. We'll talk about them much more later. For those of you that knows this little, you guys will already know that this is when you are using C sharp .net with Postgres. We have for the MongoDB too. But basically, I just wanted to introduce you guys to this before we move on. So we just have many things we can do with our um, with this solution explorer. We can build. So if I build, you see that it is building it right here. I think there's an error safe with our code. It's saying variable.name is assigned but its value is null. Okay, this is a warning. Okay, probably we did not console anything in our, but we did console a plus b, which should give us 15. No, well, we'll talk about this much more. We'll discuss this much more later. Nevertheless, let's continue. Um, so since we have installed that, let's start dealing. Now, for those of you that knows your JavaScript more in depth, you know that console comes with Node. It's one of those few libraries that comes with Node. So more like it here, we also have console. We have console in our C sharp. So let's quickly talk about our console. Last week I explained the meaning, how to use this console, but today we'll quickly talk about it sharp sharp. So for now, let me just delete all this. This is my terminal. Let me close my terminal. So to use console in in .NET, so I'm using because I'm using version 9, I don't have to do using system, then I have to do something like class. We'll still talk about all this, but because I'm using um we don't have to do all this. So this is by, if you are using a old version of, if you are using a old version of um of .NET, you have to do all this. Show me an error. Where's my error coming from? This is my class program. I forgot to put, my bad. I was supposed to put closing program. So we are to do all this, you are supposed to do static void. So if you are using an old version of C sharp, this is what you are probably have to do. So you now have to do .NET run. You see how it will run. Okay, it's running. So it will say hello world. So this is probably, once you're using an old version of .NET, this is what you have to do to be able to run it. But because we are using a newer version of .NET, you can simply come here and just do console.write. So you can say console.write, welcome to welcome to your C sharp. Now you will notice that you have to put your closing semicolon. Unlike JavaScript that doesn't matter when we don't put semicolon, in our C sharp code we have to use our semicolon. That is why if we don't put our semicolon, it will not run. So let's run this again. .NET run. Good. So let's do .NET watch. Now .NET watch means it's reloading. It is noticing changes in our, it is looking for changes in our C sharp program before it runs. So once I do this and I save, automatically it just reboots it and it runs again. This is why we use .NET watch. So look at .NET watch more like what's the name of this package again in Express? NodeMon, yeah, NodeMon. So it is more like NodeMon in um it is more like NodeMon in um more like NodeMon in C sharp. So we can say welcome, 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 something like that. You see it will reload. It is doing an auto reload. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now this is right line. This is console dot write. There's also another one that says console dot write line. But for the meantime, I want you to look at this difference. I want to do console dot write. You know what, let me just copy and paste this. So I can say console welcome dot. Then this time, instead of writing write, I can use write line. This time I can say goodbye. I want you to notice the difference quickly. So let's save this. It will rerun now. it's not as fast as Node. Now look at this. We said console.write welcome, console.write Debanjo. Then we now say console.write line goodbye. So what he did was that it will write goodbye, then it will now move to the next line. That is why this one is in the next line, because this one actually, after it writes finish, it moves users to the next line. So in fact, let me write another one and says something like au revoir. You will see that this one also pushes this one onto the next line. So you see welcome Debanjo, but because these ones are right line, so look at console.write more like, look at console.write more like an inline element here. Then look at right line more like a block element here. You know a block element takes the whole space, but this one right line does is it takes a space, it has to, the space that is needed, then it moves whatever that you are going to write next onto the next line. I hope that's clearly understood. So for that, let's quickly talk about comments. Yeah, in our readme I told you guys that comments, we can use a single line. For single line comments, all we just have to do is just do slash slash and it comments. But for multi-line comments, this is multi-line comments. For multi-line comments, we have to do it more like we are writing, more like the way you comment in the way you comment in the way you comment in css. Yeah, so that's more like the way you comment in css. So I said console.write looks more like an inline element, like a span, like an a. Console.write line looks more like a block and p element. Now let's quickly talk about our data types. In C sharp, we have to write. So yeah, let's continue. Now if we are, for those of you that are here, all of you that are here write javascript. So you know that in our javascript we do something like const x, what's this, const name equals to world, something like this. It's giving me error. Yeah, I know that it's giving me error, but though, because we're writing javascript, it's giving me error. So this is how we write it in javascript. We just have to declare the variable type. If the variable, it should be a constant or a let or a var, then the name of the variable, then we will instantiate the variable. The next thing, in if you have ever written Python is more like x. Python is more like number, age equals to age equals to 42. So this is how you write it in javascript, this is how you write it in Python. For both of them, you don't have to declare the data type. You don't have to declare if it is an integer, if it is a string, if it is all that. Unlike
If hypertext no dey,
this, unlike okay, let's continue, guys. Unlike C sharp, where you have to declare the data type. And last week we were talking about data type. We said integers are whole numbers. Then we have double or float, which are more like decimal numbers. We'll still talk about the difference between double and float. We have chars, which are single characters. We have strings, which are text. We have booleans, which take basically two variables. We have arrays, then we have objects. Now quickly, let's talk about how to use variables in C sharp. So we can say int h, equals to 30. Basically like this, we have created our first variable. We can now come here and do console dot write line. So this is string literal in C sharp, but basically we just want to do console literal dot h. I'm have even an I'm supposed to put my closing semicolon. Good. That's why I say semicolon expected. Up to now I still make this mistake. You see how it says 30. Now we can also come here and say something like string name equal to, obviously, Debanjo Israel. I also have to put my semicolon for it to run. Then I can now say console dot write line name. It is building it. Good. It says Debanjo Israel. So we also have boolean. We can say bool is student false. No, I'm not a student here. So bool is student false. So I can come here, then put, let me copy this. See it here, false. Now we can do some few if statements using this. We can do some few if statements using this. So now the joy I have to do is, the joy about this class is I don't really have to explain much what is variable, what is variable name, how to, because most of you already have is basic javascript knowledge. So basically I'm just going to be talking about, I'm going to, let's quickly move on to, we have talked about comments. Let's move on to our conditional statements. So basically, you know what? Let's talk about some string literals first. You know that in our JavaScript, we can do our string literals, string interpolation. In our JavaScript, we can do, for JavaScript, I think we have to do something like your back tick. Then we now have to do something like this in JavaScript. Yeah, something like this in JavaScript. It is quite a little bit different in C sharp. So in C sharp, we have to do something like your hash. Most of you will be familiar to hash, but instead of you know that in javascript you have to do something like this, your backtick, then your C sharp, then your this thing. But here it is, well, I say it is quite different. All you just have to do is do your, because we want to use a variable inside a string. All we just have to do is we'll first do our hash sign, then we'll open our semicolon, then we can now do hello is name. So that is why we can get hello, my name is Debanjo Israel, I'm 30 years old. Hell no, I'm not older, I'm not up to 30, I'm still a young guy. So I forgot to talk to you guys about cars. No, cars are basically first letter D. So cars are just one word. So I look at strings like more like arrays of cars. Yeah, look at strings more like arrays of cars, but strings are basically text, but cars are just basically one word. So we cannot come here and start writing something like this, you get? So it is just one letter. Good, let's quickly move on. So we can come here and do some conditional statements. The first thing first is we can check if a user is up to 18. So we can say something like, if, so basically it works almost the same thing as your javascript. So we can say if age is equals to, if age is less than 18, so basically the person is a minor, we can say console dot write line, you're a minor, something like this. Then if the person is between age of 18 to age of 65, the person console dot write line, you're an adult. If the person is between the age, if the person is greater than 65, the person is a senior citizen. So he's saying, hello, my name is Adebanjo, is your 30, you are an adult. So basically the reason why he's saying you're an adult is because the age is 30. So if I write it to be something, no, just 3 years old, it would write you're a minor, or we can say you're a child. Let's let it run. So is this understood, guys? So basically, if your JavaScript is quite a little bit sound, you quickly grab it, these basics, before we start moving into our object oriented method. Now before we even move into objects in C sharp, I would prefer I should teach you guys, probably by the next class I'll teach you guys basic on objects in JavaScript. Once you can understand objects in JavaScript, once you can understand constructors in JavaScript, you can understand C in Java, classes in JavaScript, I'm really sure that you guys would basically just understand you'd understand C sharp and .NET quite easily. So I would move it from more like a language that you understand to a language, to a new language. I hope that's clearly understood, guys. So we'll be moving more from our C sharp, our JavaScript knowledge to our C sharp knowledge. So basically, this is how to do our if statement. Now let's talk about loop. So let's say peradventure I want to loop from 0 to 5, more like that. So the loop is quite similar, just similar. In C sharp, all we just have to do is loops. So we have, let's do our for loop, just like that. So we have to do for, in JavaScript we'll do something like for I is equals to 0, something like that. But in JavaScript, in C sharp, we'll do similar, but we have to declare our data type. So we have to do for int I is equals to 0, I is less than 10. So we are losing, no, let's just probably loop it 4 times. Then I plus plus. So by now you should know plus plus means addition of 1. Equals to. So we can now say console dot write, this is loop line. So we are just basically adding, no, let's not just add. So we are saying this is loop 0, this is loop 1, so we are adding it until it's 5. So we are saying, look at it here. So we are saying this is loop 0, loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, loop 4. So basically the loop works similarly. Once you understand your loop in JavaScript, I'm sure that you grab this very easily. Now let's look at our while loop in C sharp. So for our while loop, it's basically almost the same thing. All we just have to do is we say int, let's declare our int int j equals to 0. I should probably comment this out, but let's just leave it there. Then we can say while j is equals to, while j is less than 5, we don't want it to be greater than 5, this and this should run. So we can say console dot write line, something like this. You know what, let me just comment this out. So the only difference between it and your JavaScript is we just have to declare our data type and we are fine. That should be quick, that should be easily understood by everyone. So let's run it. Oh, to even run this time, it is running automatically. So you see it is saying this is loop. You know what? Let's name this one while loop. Don't worry, the code for this would be available. So we have our while loop. So we have our while loop. Let me get this a little bit taller. Yeah, so we have our while loop, number is equals to zero, while loop. So the reason for this three is basically because we have not commented out the one that is on top. But let's just leave those that are on top while we still talk about our basic things that I want you guys to understand. So we also have our for each loop. We have our do while loop. Yeah, let's just talk about our do while loop. So we can say in k, we can say do while, then you know at the difference between while loop and do while loop is that in while loop it will first check if the condition is correct, but in do while loop it will first run before checking the condition. That's basically the difference between do while and do while loop. So we're saying that this should only run, let's say this is 6. If it's in while loop, this would not run at all because we would have done while k is less than 5, this should run. But in do while loop, it will first run it before now checking the condition, and k is less, k in this instance is not less than 5, so it will not run again. So in this one it will not run. You know what? Okay, I've commented it out. So in this one it will first, in this do while loop, it will first loop this first before it does that. Most of you guys would basically be familiar with this. So you see it first loop over it first before it now sees that the condition is actually false. So let's do our for each loop. No, let's first talk about our arrays first before we talk about our for each loops. So we can do something like string fruit. So basically in our arrays we have to first declare the array type. What will be inside your array? Declare array type. So inside this my array, I want to have something like strings inside, so I can say string fruit equals to something like, now for this one, unlike your C on like your JavaScript where you have to do const fruit equals to something like this. Here you have to do your string, then this. So we can now say console.writeLine, the first thing in fruit, which is apple. No, let me comment this out. So what we did here is we said string, because what's going to be inside our array is string. So we said string, then our array sign. What's this? I'm coming. Then the name of our array. Ah, sorry guys. So we are saying console.write fruit 0, which is apple. So we can say 2. You notice that it says orange. We can also loop through it. We can do something like for each we can now say something like, because it's a string, we can say fruits in fruits, console or right line fruits. So this is just a way to look through it. By the next class we'll start talking about objects in C sharp. But for now, let's just talk about our basic. Once we talk about our object in C sharp, we now start talking about our inheritance and all that. So basically we just looked through it. Now we can also do our several array methods in C sharp, just like we are also doing in in JavaScript. So let's quickly create something like so we can do something like we can do something like console dot write line. So we are saying fruit dot length. Now I do not spell this length. Is it length? Good. Yeah, I got the length right this time. So if you look at it, fruit length is should be 3. You see it is saying 3 here. You know what? Let's do something like number of fruits. So this can basically give us the length. So we say the number of fruits is basically 3. So this is how to get your length in in C sharp. Just do length. I'm sure in your JavaScript you'll be used to the small length. In C sharp, in JavaScript we basically use camel casing in JavaScript. We use camel casing in JavaScript. In C sharp we use more of Pascal case. We use Pascal's case, such as when we are declaring our our variables are more declared in C sharp and .NET. More like if you want to declare you can say Debanjo Israel, yeah. But assuming it is in camel casing, the first letter will be small letter, they will now do something like this. So that's mostly the difference between them. C sharp uses Pascal case. JavaScript mostly uses camel casing. So this is how to get length. We can get index of 2. So we can say int. So let's say we want to get index of. So we can say int. This is going to be an array. So we can say int numbers are equals to this. So we can say int index is equals to array dot index of. So we can just do console dot light index. So 3 is index 2. So basically this is index 0, index 1, index 2. So if I say index something like 4, so it should be probably the index 3, index 0, index 1, index 2, index 4. So that's how to check our indexing in this thing. So Java, this number 4 is index 3. As we wanted to check the index of Apple, Apple is index 0, index 1, index 2. Let's continue, guys. We can also reverse. Let's say we want to reverse this array in in how do I do this now? No, let's just reverse it here. Then let me just do console dot. Let me just do console. You know what? Let me do this one. Should be console dot write. So we use things that we have learned. There are easier methods around this. But let's just use something like this. Then we can say console dot write. What am I pressing? Now let's see what it does. You will notice that it reversed it. Now the reason why I'm using string dot join is I want to change it from numbers to string so that I can easily just console dot log it out. Because this is an array, it is not going to how do I put it? It is showing system dot int 22. It is not showing. So the way it works in um in javascript in c sharp is it is not, the console cannot console dot, it cannot write the an array. That was why I was doing string dot join. So you see that when we reverse it, it became 5432. So basically that is reverse. We can also sort by, we can also sort. Let's say we are sorting in ascending order. So this is our number here. You know what? Let me just comment this out. So let's say 115. Let's say this one is 24. Let's say this one is 345. Good. We have much more bigger numbers now. And let's say we want to sort them. We can use something that such as array dot sort. So it will sort them in, you see that it sorts them ascendingly. So it first gave us 24, 115, 345, 423, and 503. So this is basically how to sort in, so basically most of all these methods look similar. So we can also copy. So let's say we want to copy this one into another variable. You know, in